The first dollar you save is the hardest dollar you'll ever save. The 10,000th is painful, but somewhere around $20,000, something shifts. Something changes in a way that nobody warns you about. Your bank account stops feeling like a number and starts feeling like a weapon, a tool, an engine that is quietly building itself while you sleep. I remember hitting $20,000 for the first time, and the feeling wasn't just financial, it was psychological. For the first time in my life, I didn't flinch when an unexpected bill showed up. I didn't panic when my car needed repairs. I didn't calculate whether I could afford groceries for the rest of the month. The stress that had been sitting on my shoulders since I started earning money just lifted. Not because $20,000 is life-changing money, but because it proved something to me that no amount of financial advice ever could, that I am the type of person who can build wealth. And that shift in identity changes everything that comes after. Here's why 20,000 is the magic number and not 10 or 15. At $10,000, you have a safety net. That's it. 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in a savings account earning almost nothing. It's responsible, but it's not exciting. Nothing is compounding in a meaningful way. You can't invest aggressively because that money is earmarked for emergencies. $10,000 doesn't change your behavior. It just stops you from going into debt when something breaks. But at $20,000, the math changes. You have your emergency fund covered, and now you have surplus capital, real investable money that can go to work for you. If you put $10,000 into an S&P 500 index fund averaging 10% returns, that money alone becomes $26,000 in 10 years, $67,000 in 20 years, $174,000 in 30 years from one single deposit that you never add to again. That's the moment compound interest stops being a concept you read about and starts being a force you can actually feel working in your account. A study from Fidelity found that the average time to go from $0 to $100,000 is about 10 years for consistent investors, but the time from $100,000 to $200,000, only about 4 years, and from $200,000 to $300,000, about 3 years. The money accelerates, but it can only accelerate if you get to the starting line, and that starting line is $20,000. My name is Phil, and I break down the strategies that turn a normal income into real wealth. Not overnight schemes, not crypto moonshots, the boring, proven mathematical strategies that have been building millionaires for decades. If you want to understand why $20,000 is the inflection point that separates people who stay broke from people who build wealth, subscribe and hit that thumbs up, because I'm about to walk you through the 5 things that fundamentally change once you cross that threshold. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why most millionaires say the first $20,000 was the hardest, and why everything after it felt like a completely different game. Here's my thesis. $20,000 is not a financial milestone, it's a psychological one. The money itself isn't what changes your life, it's the proof that you can do something that the majority of Americans cannot. 63% of Americans cannot cover a $500 emergency without going into debt. The average savings account balance in this country is $8,166. When you hit $20,000, you have more liquid savings than the majority of working adults. And that realization does something to your brain that no financial YouTube video can replicate. It rewires how you think about money, risk, spending, and your own potential. Let me show you the 5 specific changes. Change number 1 is that financial fear disappears, not reduces. Disappears. When you have less than $5,000 in savings, every single day carries a low-level hum of anxiety. You might not even notice it because it's been there so long it feels normal, but it's there. Every time your phone buzzes, and it might be a bill. Every time you hear a weird noise from your car. Every time someone suggests going to dinner and you mentally calculate whether you can swing it. That's financial fear running in the background like a program eating up your mental bandwidth. At $20,000, that program shuts off. Your car breaks down and needs $2,000 in repairs? Annoying, but handled. You lose your job unexpectedly? You have 4 to 6 months to figure it out without panic. A medical bill shows up for $1,500? You pay it and move on. The emotional weight of these events drops by about 90% because the financial threat is neutralized. This matters way more than people realize, because financial stress doesn't just affect your bank account. It affects your sleep, your relationships, your productivity at work, and your ability to think clearly about long-term decisions. Studies from Princeton showed that financial scarcity literally reduces cognitive function. People under financial stress perform worse on IQ tests, not because they're less intelligent, but because their brain is dedicating processing power to worrying about money instead of solving problems. $20,000 gives your brain back. Change number 2 is that compound interest stops being a theory and starts being something you can actually see in your account. At $5,000 invested, a 10% return gives you $500 in a year. That's $41 a month. You don't even notice it. It's a rounding error. It doesn't feel like anything is happening because functionally nothing is. But at $20,000 invested, that same 10% is $2,000. That's $167 a month being generated by money you already have. You start to feel it. You check your account and it's higher than last month even though you didn't deposit anything extra. Your money is making money, and the number is large enough for your brain to actually register it as meaningful. This is where the psychology becomes critical. When you can see compound interest working, it motivates you to feed it more. You start looking at your spending differently. That $150 impulse purchase isn't just $150 anymore. It's $150 that would have become $390 in 10 years, $450, $500. The opportunity cost becomes visceral because you've seen what invested money does. You've watched it grow in real time. Before $20,000, compound interest is a chart someone showed you online. After $20,000, it's your money in your account doing exactly what the chart said it would. If you've made it this far, you already understand the first 2 changes, but changes 3 through 5 are the ones that really accelerate your wealth building. Change 4 is the one that nobody talks about, and change 5 is the reason millionaires say the first $20,000 was the most important money they ever saved. Stay with me. Change number 3 is that you start taking calculated risks that you never would have taken before. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, every financial decision is about survival. You can't invest in stocks because you might need that money for rent. You can't negotiate a higher salary because you can't afford to lose the job you have. You can't start a side business because the startup costs might eat into your grocery budget. Scarcity forces you into conservative, defensive decisions that keep you exactly where you are. $20,000 gives you a runway, and a runway changes everything. You can negotiate harder at work because even if it goes badly, you have months of expenses saved. You can leave a job that underpays you because you're not desperate. You can invest in an online course that teaches you a higher-paying skill. You can put money into index funds instead of letting it rot in a savings account earning 1%. You can even explore starting a side business because the $2,000 startup cost isn't going to bankrupt you. This is the unlock that makes $20,000 worth way more than $20,000. It's not the money itself, it's the decisions the money enables. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. Better outcomes lead to more money. More money leads to even better decisions. It's a virtuous cycle that starts the moment you have enough of a cushion to take intelligent risks. Change number 4 is the identity shift, and this is the one that nobody talks about because it's invisible. It happens inside your head and nobody can see it, but it is the single most important thing that happens at $20,000. Before $20,000, your financial identity is reactive. Money comes in, money goes out, and you hope there's something left at the end of the month. You think of yourself as someone who is trying to get by, trying to pay bills, trying not to fall behind. The language you use about money is defensive. I can't afford that. I don't have enough. Money is tight. After $20,000, your identity flips. You're no longer someone trying not to drown. You're someone who builds wealth. That sounds like a small distinction, but it changes every behavior that follows. A wealth builder doesn't impulse buy because it conflicts with their identity. A wealth builder automates investments because that's what wealth builders do. A wealth builder reads about money, optimizes taxes, negotiates bills, and thinks about every dollar as a tool, not just something to spend. The 20,000 didn't cause the identity shift, it confirmed it. It's physical proof sitting in your account that you are capable of accumulating capital. And once that belief locks in, the behaviors become automatic. This is why financial psychologists say the first milestone matters more than any other. It's not about the amount, it's about the evidence. Your brain needs evidence that you're the type of person who can build wealth before it will fully commit to the behaviors required to do so. 10,000 might start it, but 20,000 makes it undeniable. Change number 5 is the snowball effect. At $20,000, you've proven 3 things. You can save consistently, you can resist lifestyle inflation, and you can delay gratification. Those 3 skills are the only skills you need to go from 20,000 to 100,000 and from 100,000 to 1,000,000. Here's the math. If you've saved 20,000 and continue adding just $500 a month into an index fund earning 10% annually, in 5 years you have 72,000. In 10 years you have 168,000. In 15 years you have 335,000. In 20 years you're past 600,000, and in 25 years you're a millionaire. All from a $500 monthly contribution starting from 20,000. But that's just the investments. The behavioral snowball is even more powerful. At 20,000, you've trained yourself to live below your means. That habit doesn't go away. As your income grows, your spending doesn't grow with it because you've already proven you don't need it to. Every raise becomes fuel for the investment machine instead of a lifestyle upgrade. 500 a month becomes 700. 700 becomes 1,000. The gap between income and spending widens, and the snowball grows faster and faster. This is why every millionaire study finds the same thing. The hardest part was the beginning. Not because the math was hard, but because the habits had to be forged from nothing. Once those habits exist, wealth is nearly inevitable. Let me tie this together. 5 changes happen at $20,000. Financial fear disappears and your brain gets its full processing power back. Compound interest becomes visible and starts motivating you to invest more. You gain the ability to take smart risks that multiply your income. Your identity shifts from surviving to building, and the snowball starts rolling with habits and math that compound simultaneously. That's not just a savings milestone, that's a completely different financial life. If you're not at 20,000 yet, that's your target. Not 100,000, not 1,000,000, 20,000. Because once you get there, the game changes in ways I just described, and in ways you won't fully understand until you feel them yourself. If you're past 20,000, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. You felt the shift. The question is whether you're maximizing it. So tell me in the comments, where are you on the journey? Are you grinding toward 20,000? Did you just cross it? Are you past it and building the snowball? I want to know because the conversations in this community are pushing people further than any video ever could. And if you want me to break down the exact investment strategy to go from 20,000 to 100,000 as fast as possible, tell me below. That's what's coming next if you want it. I'll see you in the next one.